All right, we're back. So, setbacks. What do they mean? Man, they're terrible. They are the worst thing ever if you choose to look at them like that. So, for example, my setback, or one of my few setbacks that shaped my life, literally, is 2016, March 3rd, or 2018, excuse me, March 3rd. I ended up getting injured at the U.S. Army Sapper School, which is essentially just a really hard physical intensive school. I got injured, but the setback came from me deciding to not go to or not continue to train. I had the option to continue to train, but the doctor told me, hey, if you continue to train, you could possibly mess up something for the rest of your life. So I decided to quit and cry about it for about 4 years and let it destroy my relationships with people and myself. And I didn't understand how to deal with that setback at all, really. And then fast forward a little bit, I went on deployment in Afghanistan in 2019, and then I completely blew out my back, had to have spine surgery. I had 3 herniated discs and a spinal decompression with the Coflex device from L5 to S1. I still have the big ass scar on my back. But that was another setback. And then I had shoulder surgery. If you take a step back, had shoulder surgery in 2012. That was another setback, a physical setback. But the U.S. Army Sapper School really jacked me up mentally. And the tools that I learned how to overcome that was taking extreme ownership of yourself. And I talked about it in the first video about this motivation thing and the cycles of motivation that I went through and how it shaped my thought process, and realizing that I'm having a toxic thought process. So that was step one for me, to understand that I'm choosing to look at this setback as a failure rather than learning from it. That was a huge, huge game changer. And that came from being accountable with myself and looking in the mirror and realizing that I'm not the person that I think I am. And I got a lot of work to do, and being accountable in that aspect. So just self-reflection is huge for me. I used to think that I was just better than everyone. I used to just have this victim mentality. Basically, the whole world's out to get me. And essentially, it led me to a lot of toxic things, you know. It led me to drinking a lot. It led me to just not being effective with communication and just losing out on a lot of opportunities for relationships with people, and and a lot of lost progress if I look back, but that's fine. It's part of life. You got to live and learn. But if you're having a mental setback, it's on you to finally just realize that it can be a setback and you can learn from it, or it can be a failure and you can choose to dwell on that failure for years and years until you die, maybe. I didn't understand the difference between that. I really didn't. It sounds so simple, but I started taking accountability for myself. I looked in the mirror, so that was step one. Step two was I set an extremely high goal for myself, and I still have them. I went from spine surgery to now Ironman finisher, but that was never the goal. The goal was to win an Ironman, to win a full distance Ironman or a half distance Ironman, just to prove to myself that I could be competitive. And I have a goal of like going to the Olympics. I have a goal of obtaining a pro card in triathlon. All these things are feasible in my mind. I can conceptualize this, but these goals have literally drugged me out of depression, because I knew in order to obtain these goals, I had to make a checklist. And then off that checklist, I had to make items for every item on that checklist. I had to make a to-do list for every item, basically. So, for example, if I wanted to learn how to run, or if I wanted to run faster, I had to, one, speed up my recovery, from my back. I couldn't just dwell on the fact that I had a broken back and I had spine surgery and I'm under 30, and it was just a lot of, I knew what I needed to do. And I feel like I have a voice in my head that tells me the right or wrong voice. And David Goggins mentions this multiple times. Like, you have a right or wrong voice. You just choose to listen to the comfort voice, which is most of the time wrong. And it's instant gratification, but long term, there's no gratification whatsoever. So simply put, and kind of confusing, but if you go for the easy things now, so if someone just gives you a fish, basically, is the best example I can give you. If someone just gives you a fish, you can only eat for that day or maybe 3 days or whatever, however long you ration it. But if they teach you how to fish, now you can eat for a lifetime. That's what the simple example basically is. So I wanted to learn how to run, and I knew that this checklist involved me walking and getting better faster than anyone that I've ever researched about this spine surgery crap. So all the doctors told me I couldn't do it. But in my head, I realized I had this goal. I visualized it. I could see myself on a podium. I could see myself wearing a gold. I could see myself in the mornings, waking up, doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So I walked with my walker around the neighborhood almost every single day, crying in pain after back surgery, just to prove a point that I could do something, that I could set myself a goal and I'm going to attain it. And I ended up winning my first ever half distance Ironman. It wasn't an Ironman brand, but it was a Lake Logan half Ironman or half distance triathlon. There you go. But I ended up winning that mainly because there was 3 other people in my category, in my age group, 25 to 29. But at the end of the day, it was a sweet gratification, It was like all the stuff that I was doing was paying off. Not necessarily the time wasn't competitive, but to me, it meant more because it felt like someone gave back, or at least all the effort. I realized the effort that I was putting to myself, and I gave myself credit for all this effort that I was trying to do it. So that was just a mental trick that I learned. So being super accountable for yourself, making a checklist, and then making a to-do list from that checklist, from the items that you wrote down on your checklist. That's a huge freaking thing that I wish I would have learned a long time ago. I wish I would have learned that, but I didn't, because I was just naive, and I thought I was, headstrong, and I was better than everyone. And until you hit something in life that is truly so hard and so enduring that you quit at something, that was the moment in my life where I realized that, you know what? I'm not doing something for yourself is not enough. And that's also what I learned. That's the second thing. Doing something for yourself is not enough for your motivation. You got to be able to, for me at least, this pulled me out. I feel like I have to give back now. I feel like I have this story that I overcame things, and I'm still doing things, and I'm still going to achieve these things. It's just I feel like I need to give back to the experiences that I have. And don't forget that you need to give back to people, because people are always looking for an avenue to better their lives. So that's all I have, but I'll see you guys Monday. Journeyman out, episode 5 complete.